No, it's not a biplane, it's a sesquiplane, and possibly this is the best fighter of the First World War. Let's take a look. Hello and welcome to Model Kit Stuff. Yes, it's First Impressions Day, and today we're looking at this. It's Copper State Models version of the Nieuport 17, late version of the Nieuport 17, and it's in 1:32 scale. Now, if you don't know what a Nieuport 17 is, it's possibly, arguably, the best fighter of the Second World War. Certainly when it was introduced in early 1916, it was certainly the best fighter of its day. It had a very powerful engine. It could go really quickly. It had a fast rate of climb, and it was very manoeuvrable. Now, it's a sesquiplane, which means that the lower wing is smaller than the upper wing. So if you can see this fighter, this German fighter over here, the two wings are equally sized. It's not the case on the Nieuport, as no doubt we will see when we dig into the kit. So there you go. That's a little bit about the Nieuport 17. It was probably the ultimate version of the Nieuport mark. So looking at the box, we've got a nice box with some nice box art on there. Has some technical drawing style imagery down the side there. Copper State Models logo, and it tells you that it's a French First World War fighter. And then we've got Nieuport 17 late in slightly First World War style writing. If we then look at the sides, the ends of the box pretty much tell us the same thing. We've got some information about the contents of the box. It tells you that it's 14 plus, which probably means there's some photo etching there possibly, and it's produced in Latvia. Obviously Copper State Models originally was an American company that then got bought. And on this side we have our kit number, which is 32002. I'm guessing that's 32 scale, kit number 2. I don't know. And then we've got 4 paint options being shown, which in fairness really look like 4 decal options. There might be some differences with the aircraft as well. We can see this top mounted wing guns on 2 of these and not on others. I'm not sure which one of those paint options I'd end up doing. At the moment, nothing massively grabs me and says you've got to do me, which sometimes it does. But they are, what have we got? We've got autumn 16, November 16, summer 17, and August 16. So all around about the time that the Nieuport 17 came into service. When we take the lid off, we've got a lovely inner box. So a bit like CSM, they put a cover on it, and then they're using a standard size box for the kit, which has a label on with a little technical drawing style profile. Gives you the kit number again. So I guess if that upper lid gets damaged or whatever, you can still know what's in there. Or maybe it's easy for them to pick it in their warehouse, who knows. But yeah, it's nicely packaged. The box is good and strong because it's double folded and corrugated. So this got a bit of impact damage while being delivered, as you can see, and I'm absolutely positive that kit's as safe as houses in there. So great packaging. Open up the box, we can see that we've got our bagged components, and there's quite a bit of space there. I mean, what, nearly 3 fingers worth. So in transit, this is able to fly all over the show. So there is a danger of some broken parts. Okay, so I have done this as a comparison review, which is why these bags are open, but I haven't looked at it from a first impressions point of view before, so that's what we're going to do today. So if it looks familiar, you probably looked at the comparison with the Wingnut Wings kit, the DFW C5, which we compared it with. So our instruction manual is a really beautifully presented document. It's a matte document designed to look like something that was possibly of the period. So even though it's telling you the kit number and the scale and what have you, it is presented in a way that it's been printed in 1916. And it's those little touches, those attention to detail, that gives you a feel of getting a quality kit. And as a modeler, it draws you in, and it's just a bit more of an immersive experience. And it's usually a sign that you've got some quality modelling to come. So as we flick over first page, we've got another image of the box art, and then some history. Takes you through a little bit about the aircraft, which is nice. And then as we turn over again, we've got these lovely yellow pages, and I've got to say they're really easy on the eye. It is nice to look at. We have some important notes to start with. Then we've got our little sprue map, and it's telling us that we're going to have 4 sprues there, a decal sheet, some photo etch as we suspected, an acetate film, and then it's going to tell us the colours. Now it's not actually using any paint brand, it's just telling us the colour, so you're free to go out and choose what you want to do in the terms of brands and shades and so on. But it gives you the colours, so we've got 18 different colours called for to get us through the kit. And then below that, we've got what they call the symbols reference, so you know, the key that's going to take you through the various different build instructions. So it tells you that means it's a part number, part name if it's relevant, paint colour, apply a decal, and so on. So nice that we've got that, because not all manufacturers do that, do they, Border? Page 5 now, and we're at step 1, but they aren't calling that out particularly. Oh, I beg your pardon, they are. It does say step 1. I was looking for a number in the corner, but it's actually in the written detail. So there is quite a bit of written detail on here, so it's worth reading that at every step. And a bit like Wingnut Wings, they're taking the first part, they're telling you how to paint it, they're putting the decal on, and then they're taking to the next part where you're going to add that. So on your second step, you're doing rigging and you're adding a part that you've already painted and put a decal on. So right from the start, it's going to feel really immersive. So yeah, that's a really nice feel to it. The instructions themselves, really nice and clear. Although the CAD drawings that are coloured, it does look the part. And they seem to be using a system where the part that you're adding is shaded in blue. So that gives you a good idea. Although I'm not fully convinced of that, because there's some other parts there that look like they're clearly moulded in. So not 100% sure of that. Might be a reference to the colours you're painting it. So it's clear that those bits are painted in the blue and those bits are painted in the brown. So that's quite a nice approach as well. So nice clear instructions. We're starting with what I'm guessing is the interior of the cockpit there. It's telling you what this is as well. It's a Jaeger thermometer. So whatever that is, it doesn't make me much wiser. I like the fact that in the instructions they're telling you what things are. So step 3, installing magneto and oil pump to the engine plate and oil tank on the front side of the firewall. I like that. That means they know what these parts are. That means they've done some research, and that gives me confidence that we're getting a nice, detailed and understood build. So that I really like. It's all good evidence that this is going to build up well. Lots of rigging that we're doing at each step. We can see more rigging there, and it's telling us the size to use. So 1mm wire, 1mm wire. So yeah, as we turn over, we can see we've got some more close-ups of parts. So it tells you the part number, but this is just a close-up, so you can clearly see what you're doing, and I really like that as well. Step 6, it's asking us to drill holes in the air induction tubes for a better looking model. So that's an option. So just to make that look more like tube rather than solid. So that's good. Obviously something they couldn't do in the moulding process. And again, more clarity on what you're painting. So I'm guessing 12 is brass. I'm going to just check that now I've said that. Yeah, 12 is brass. So these little brass components here telling you what to paint them, so you're not missing any of the details, and I think that's really nice as well. So we're at what, step 8, and we still really only have fundamentally those two parts together. So lots of little detailed building going on of tiny little bits of detail and lots of detail painting. So if you like that style of building, and I do, it will really suit you down to the ground, this. Then we're putting together the ammunition box, which is going to be painted in wood. We can see that then attached to the bulkhead there, showing you the control cables, telling you to use a different thickness of wire, so that's nice. We know that we've got 2 different thicknesses of rigging and they haven't just gone rig it, so that's really nice. And we can see that lot getting put in and put together. So yeah, I think that works really well. A lot of detail around fundamentally one little set of parts here, which then goes into there, and we can see that. The only thing I would say is there is no plan at this stage, whether there's one further on, which shows you where that's terminating, so you can get an understanding of how long that needs to be when you attach it. Sure, it can be worked out though. So guide support brackets, painting instructions, lots of tiny little parts to paint. That's really nice. And then as we get over, we're on step 17, and we're still just building up this tiny little section of the interior. Now obviously much of the detail's on the inside, so it's good that we're spending this time on it. We've got control cables being added there. This is obviously the control stick. We've got push rods and various little bits and pieces, and it shows you how this goes, how the parts should align, where the rigging should go, what colours to paint it all. Really, really nice. And that just follows through. We get to the seat, and we have a perforated bucket seat, and we've got the photo etch strapping going on there, the seat harnesses, and then it again tells you how to paint them. And what you should do is form those into the shape you want, probably anneal them, put them into the shape you want, then paint them, then attach them. So that's the seat being installed, and then we've got more rigging being done. So quite a lot of complex rigging being done that other manufacturers possibly would have either put in plastic, in which case it'd have been too thick, or ignored, in which case it would be missing. So nice that they're giving you the option and showing you clearly how to do it. I think in the comparison videos with the Wingnut Wings kit, I said that I actually preferred how they did their rigging than Wingnut Wings. Okay, so we can then turn over, and you can see we've got a little bit more rigging to do. That might be a little bit tricky. Another ammunition belt, this time a reel for the empties. So it's taking the feed from the ammunition box of the empty belt with the shells taken out and reeling it round there. So This early flight, you can see every detail. It's not all encased in boxes and stuff. So there's some really nice detail to be seen there. And as you can see from these pictures here, more painting instructions. And then finally, step 33, we're starting to deal with the fuselage. And this is the interior of the tail skid. It says there, tail skid support. So that's what you'll see on the inside. It's giving you the paint instructions. So it's wood. So there's quite a bit of natural wood painting to be done. All probably sort of this sort of colour, I would imagine. Then we've got more rigging control cables going on. Doesn't say you need to drill those out, so I'm going to assume that those are holes. So building this up, and then this is a really nice touch. Really nice touch. Installing the wooden top formers with stringers. It says do not paint the top of the formers for installing the top cover. But what you can do here is you can add the plywood top cover loose on top. You can take it off and look inside your model. So that is really nice. It also means you've got to get rid of any ejector pins and make sure it's really nice on the inside, but it's a really nice touch, and it means that all this rigging, you'll be able to see it going through the inside to the cockpit. So that's a really nice touch. I do really like that. Flipping over now, step 40, and the lower wings are going on at this stage here. So we can see that that attaches to the cockpit before we've put any fuselage on. Which is interesting. Then we're putting the back part of the fuselage on, and it looks like the join lines are probably at the termination point for different materials. So material at the back, plywood top there, and then probably metal or plywood as we go forward, and then changing to all metal at the engine, I would imagine. Then we've got check the join, alignment and lower wings, plywood, undershield and the rear section of the fuselage. So just to make sure everything's aligned. Then you've got the tail going in, or the tail plane as they call it. And it's pointing out to you that the control horns, because that's where those control cables are going to go. Then we've got support struts going in, the rudder going on. So they're not two halves going together, so they're fully moulded pieces, so that should be nice. We'll have to look, see if there's any sink. Then we've got a bit more rigging to do, and then it's telling you the material of these panels, which is really lovely. You know, this is a sidewall, and you might wonder to yourself what it is. It's telling you it's a plywood panel, so you can paint it in a wood effect on the inside, and really get that to really stand out, and then you can paint on this side what you want, which is allowing you to paint it before you fit it as well, of course, which might be a nice way to go, considering how this has been engineered. Should go together quite nicely. More rigging, plenty of rigging to do should you want to. Dry fit the top cowl, step 50, which is there, to check along the red line if additional sanding is needed. Okay, so it's suggesting, and this goes around those front supports there, suggesting that you need to just check the fit and make sure that everything's correct before you come to do anything further, which is a good shout. Then we've got our windscreen frame, which they're telling you to paint, and then add the acetate film. So that should look really effective. Then we've got our Vickers machine gun being built up, and installation, and ammo belt chute and so on. So all very nice. Then we're adding V-struts and secure flying wire on the vertical part of the V-strut, so a bit more rigging. Then it's showing us a couple of options here depending on what gun you're going to mount, if any. Then you've got the sections of your wings here. So the upper wing, got a centre section, the two main wings, and the ailerons. And then, okay, installing rear struts, which is this V that goes over forms over the windshield there. And it's just highlighting some of the fitting points. And then we've got our upper wing on. So we're almost done, other than the undercarriage and the engine and prop. So undercarriage is next. Seems fairly straightforward. And then it's telling us that there is a fitting slot for the fabric cover. Okay, so what we've got is a tyre with one side of the hub moulded in, and then we're attaching the other side by the looks of it. Yeah, and then adding that on, just do a little bit more rigging. Then we're building the engine, which is a 110 horsepower air engine, it's saying, and we've got a little bit of the ignition wires to be added onto that, so we could call that a bit more rigging, I guess. Adding the engine, adding the cowl, it's asking you to do a couple of little trims just to make it fit. Install the engine cowling. A slight correction is needed for the cowling's ribs before installing the parts. Okay, so they obviously built this thing and came up with some solutions. Then we've got some control levers going on, machine gun mounts, so bits on the upper wing, and then finally we're adding the propeller, which has, if you notice, has clipped tips. So that's interesting. So, and that completes our build. So 70 steps, much of it dealing with the interior. So it's going to be really important to have that on show. And I wonder if it'd be possible, probably is, because it's interesting that they've got the panel there separate. So you could have that off to look inside if you wished. But I was just wondering if you could possibly leave off one of these panels so that you could see inside a little bit better. Might be worth it, depending on how your builds come out. So then we have our paint instructions. And this also incorporates our main decals. So basically the roundels, the national markings, and it's showing you, okay, so serial number, it's an option depending on which paint scheme you go with, showing you where the Nieuport factory logo goes, and the logo for the manufacturer of the propeller, and more manufacturing logos. So quite a few tiny little badges that they've replicated as decals, so that's nice. Then as we go over, we have the paint schemes. Now I didn't appreciate this from looking at the box side, but actually we've got quite a different wing here on this first one to this second one. I quite like that with the stripes on, I've got to be honest. So this is March the 15th, 1892. Oh, that's the pilot who passed away in 1927. Okay, so it gives you a bit of a history about this particular aircraft, which is nice. Again, they've done their research, so you don't have to. Yeah, very nice. We've got this lovely heart here with a coffin and a skull and crossbones in it. So mixed messages, I think, but I gotta say I quite like this. I do quite like this one. Then we've got this next one, which basically you're losing those stripes. We've got a big number 7 on the top and the sides, and this heraldic knight's helmet there, and another little decal there. So again, it's a nice option, but effectively they're all the same colour. Then as we cross over the page, option 4, we've got this large cockerel on there, and then a 1 on the sides and on the top of the wing there. No gun on the upper mount of this wing. And then on our 4th option, we've got a wing again. We've got the Grim Reaper and an eclipsed sun. Yeah, no markings being shown for the wings, so therefore I'm assuming that there isn't any, and it's just the national markings. So yeah, there's 4 very nice options there. I think I am quite drawn to this first one personally. Just got a little bit more colour on it, hasn't it? Although I really quite like that. So yeah. Then our last page talks about the team, and that is our instructions. So let's have a look at the decals next. So the decals come in a Ziploc bag, and that is a really nice touch, because as you're taking off decals throughout the build, you saw in the instructions in the very first step we're using a decal, you can then put them back in, zip the bag up, you know, there's no foreign objects going to get in there and damage your decals. Gives them some protection. It's a reusable bag. I really like that, and yeah, thank you very much for that. That's again thinking about how their customers are going to use their product, which is perfect. So let's get the bag out of the way and the protective tissue, which I can't grab. There we go. Okay, and the first thing I'm noticing in the bottom right hand corner here is it says printed by Cartograph. So that is something that's really reassuring. There is a little bit of damage here. Looks like a little bit of kit impact. I'm going to put these inside the instruction manual. Now, they're originally face up in the bottom of the box, which, you know, bit of a bugbear for some of us. And what we've got is we've got what looks to be the generic markings for all of them, and then we've got the individual aircraft markings, and I hadn't appreciated those stripes for the top wing have been done as a decal. So obviously you could mask them on and paint them in yourself. You've got nothing really that you need to tie it into, so you could do your own, maybe show it a bit faded from the sun or what have you. But yeah, lovely decals. Unless there's a need, there is no decal film. So we can see around this dial here and the badges and what have you, there is no decal film whatsoever. And then the registration numbers, we seem to have individual numbers here that you can cut out. And that'll be really handy for all sorts of things when you've finished with what you need for this. So that's really nice to see. Yeah, they're really good. I mean, you look at the Grim Reaper here. There is no decal film in the space between those legs. That is really, really nicely done. That's a lovely set of decals. Absolutely no complaints whatsoever with that. Really, really nice. Also in with the decals is our little acetate, which is die cut for us. So all we've got to do is cut through that tab and away we go. They give you 2, so you've got 2 bites of the cherry. I think that's really nice. And rather than putting a clear part in that you have to paint, I think that's going to look a lot more realistic. I love that. Small bit of photo etch also comes in a little Ziploc bag, because again you're going to want to dip in and out of it, so that's a nice little thought. Let's just fish it out, and what we've got there is we've got machine gun front and the harnesses, and they're nicely done. They're relief etched, so they look pretty good. Paint them up shouldn't be any issues. They've done a nice job of relief etching the material so that all the metal buckle elements stand out proud. So yeah, that should be easy to paint and look quite good when finished. So all our sprues come in individual heat sealed bags, and there's plenty of space in them so we can get the sprue in and out of that bag, and there is space to spare, so it's very useful for protecting your parts as you're building, so that's really good. And if you do that, an alternative to putting some tape on your sprue is to actually put a label on your bag, which I quite often do. So next thing is to have a look at our plastic parts. This is sprue A, and you can see it says Nieuport 17 on there, so we know it's a dedicated sprue for this kit. We've got our rudder, tailplane, the rear of the fuselage, the upper plywood one. These are our little plates that go inside the landing skid at the tail. A number of very small parts, our Vickers machine gun. So, yeah, some very nice moulding here, and this is our little frame for the top of the fuselage as well. So let's just have a look. Lots of nice textured detail on there. Stitching, I think that is, which is nice to see, or some form of fastening. Some very delicate raised fastener heads on there. Lots of tiny little details. Very nicely done. It's very crisply moulded. I'm just looking, there's no thick seams. There is seam on there, but it's not thick at all, so easy to clean up. That looks like, yeah, that's, and then we'll put our little bit of photo etch on the front so we can see the two halves of the Vickers gun barrel. Very nice. And this is our undercarriage, and just look at the detail on the undercarriage there. It's really nicely done. And then we flip it over, and as I suspected, if you're going to look down into this, we've got all our ribs and things in place, so that's nice, but you will have a little bit of cleanup of ejector pins. But yeah, I mean, there's no sink in this tail at all really nice. There's a little bit of sink in that. Oh, that's going inside there, so we're not even seeing that. That's all right. Yeah, no issues with that whatsoever. So there you go. You can just pause the video if you want to take a closer look. I will take some photographs at the end of the video, which will give you a better view. Sprue B now, and we've got quite a lot of small parts on here as well. We've got the two front end sections of the fuselage here, and you can see it's really nicely shaped, and we know this is plywood, and look at the texturing on the inside. Isn't that is really cool. Same with those panels, so we've got the separate panels so you can leave them off. If you are going to leave them off where you've got those little indentations, just run a little micro drill through, open them up, and that'll just add to that feel. But yeah, again, all very crisply moulded. The detail is lovely. You can see, rather than just having sunk marks that you put a wash in, they have actually opened these up. There is a little bit of elliptical forming. You might want to put a drill in at an angle and correct that a little bit. But that's just the limitation of moulding a piece to that shape. Got our wheel hubs there, panels nice and crisp. There's our propeller with the cropped ends, all very nice. Some lovely detail. Look at the stitching detail there. It's really nice. Yeah, very, very nice. And we'll flip that over. Yeah, the detail follows through on both sides. We can see ammunition nice and clear. Cleanup is going to be minimal. Very nicely done. Very, very nice. And a lot of the sprue gates are on parts that are not going to be seen, which is another nice touch. Okay, sprue C. We've got our wings on here and our engine cowls. And this gives you a fair idea of the final size of the aircraft. So even in 132, it's not taking up a lot of shelf space, is it? What we've got is solidly moulded wings. There is no obvious issues with sink. And again, very crisp and very nicely detailed. We've got some absolutely stunning texturing there. You can see the material stretching over the ribs. And you can even see the ribs sort of squaring off a little bit. Really, really nice. We've got our stitching detail. Fastener detail underneath. That is really lovely. Really, really lovely. Here again, this is... Right, we've got two options for the upper wing middle sections, depending on whether you're mounting a gun or not. But really nice, both of them. Lovely details around where the metalwork goes and the stitching there. Really lovely. And then the same, this is the upper wing now. And you've got that same lovely stretch texturing of the material. And it really looks the part. It's not just lumps. You can see they've squared it off. It just looks like it's stretched over the square end of some wood. It really does look nice. And then you've got some stitching detail. Yeah, really good. And that follows through on the other side. Yeah, just look at that texturing. That is lovely. Then we've got two engine cowlings. I didn't notice that there was an option in the instructions. The obvious difference is this has two rows of fasteners around the outer ring, and this has just the one. But nicely moulded. Now you can see that these have been slide moulded here, and that's so that they can get these details in on the engine cowl. So you do have a little bit of a slide mould seam you're going to have to remove. A slide mould seam that you will have to remove there. But it's very mild, but it's allowed them to put these holes in the end of the wings so that they can fit the wings. So yeah, really nice. Our final sprue now is E, which deals with our engine, which has been very nicely done. We've got two halves for the pistons there. It's got some really nice detail. Nicely done. This is going to hold a wash nicely. The grooves are nice and deep. But not overly so. Then we've got this cover that goes on the front, which has got our pipe work on, which again looks really nice. And then we've got the tops, which go on individually with our rocker detail. So very nice, very nice. A couple of little extra parts to go in, which allows us to paint the detail and build it up. Nothing wrong with that. Lovely. Right, I'll take some photos for the end of the video, but let's get a summary. So there you have it. Copper State Models 1:32 scale Nieuport 17 late version French World War I fighter. What is my first impression? Well, let's just run through this. You've got a well packaged, well boxed model kit that comes with very clear, detailed, easy to follow instructions with lots and lots of options for you to add extra rigging should you wish to, but don't by all means don't be put off by the rigging. If you wanted to build it without the rigging, it would still look superb. The rigging is just an option, really. You've got Very crisp moulded parts, hardly any cleanup, no issues. So as long as the fit is as good as the part tooling, you've got a cracking model here. The decals are cartograph and are really superb. You've got a little bit of photo etch for the harnesses. All bases are covered. You can build it out of the box. You don't need to do any research. Perfect. It's exactly what a modern state-of-the-art model kit should be. It's exactly what should be being presented. So I think this is a really, really nice offering. Now, I know it doesn't have a pilot, but pilot's not for everyone. CSM do separate figures. So if you wanted to do a pilot, you can certainly get one. There's probably a little bit of aftermarket there to get fabric harnesses should you want to, but to be honest, if you anneal the photo etch parts and paint them up, they're going to look just as good. So personally, I don't think I would do. There is some nice touches in here where they've definitely thought about the modeler and how the model is going to get built. I think it's a lovely kit. I can't really think of any downsides. There's nothing that goes, hey, it was all right except for this. It was all right. It was beyond all right. The detail's lovely. I think it's a cracking kit, and I'm looking forward to building it. If that is how Copper State Models is going to approach all of its kits, then I think this is a manufacturer to follow, very definitely. I will be interested to have a look at one of their armoured car kits. I've heard good things about them. Anyway, that is a beautiful kit. I'm sure you will agree. And if you were interested or about dipping your toe in Copper State Models, you now know what you get in the box. And I can only say from my first impression, it all looks good. Thanks for looking in. You enjoy your modelling, and I'll see you very soon. Bye for now.